Today I want to talk about how Chris Tyree reminds me of a Clemson running back, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today I want to talk a bit about Chris Tyree and how he reminds me of CJ Spiller, but I also want to preface this by saying Chris Tyree took his official visit to Oklahoma for the spring game. And it turns out it was a bigger hit than a lot of people thought it would be because the kids were allowed to do some things that, frankly, they wouldn't have been able to do if the spring game happened on Saturday instead of Friday night. But kudos to Annie Hansen, Drew Hill, and the recruiting staff, Chip Viney, and the coaches themselves for how they made that work for them. Bad weather aside, they were able to get the kids into the Chesapeake Arena, right, where the Thunder play basketball, eat dinner there, have the kids on their hardwood, and basically deck it out for Oklahoma. It's a really unique way of being able to use an asset that is just 20 minutes down the road from Norman and really make a dent with some of these guys that are highly sought after recruits, not just at Oklahoma, but everywhere. And Chris Tyree is one of those guys. He is a top 30 prospect and one of the best running backs in a loaded running back class for 2020. Chris Tyree runs 4.38 at 5'9", $178. But I'm looking at his track times because I'm a track guy. And he's running 6.3 in the 55-meter dash. Now, the comp for that to the 60-meter dash is about 6.87. And I was thinking about him, and I'm thinking about his game, and I'm thinking about all the different things he could do. He can run out of I formation. He can run out of single back. He can split out to split in. He can play some flanker. He can be in the slot. There's lots of things that you can do with Chris Tyree, but the DeMarco Murray comp wasn't working for me because he's just not that big. And I don't necessarily think that DeMarco Murray's that fast because, again, dude just got elite speed, and particularly in straight line speed, but he's got really good hands to go along with that. So the last guy that I can remember who was like that, who also was in that size and stature, is CJ Spiller. Jacoby Ford was a little bit bigger, and I'm picking on CJ Spiller here because his last year at Clemson was one of those years when Dabo Swinney was finally starting to put it together. Like when he took the interim tag off and he got to have his team, you saw the number of rush attempts from CJ Spiller double. He had like 216 rush attempts. He had close to 1,400 yards all-purpose. And he, I think, rushed for over 1,200. And he was doing sorts of things in the kick return game and throwing the ball out of the backfield on the halfback pass and doing things with the bubble screen that you could see Chris Tyree doing in a Lincoln Riley offense. And because CJ Spiller was not just really, really fast and really good at Clemson, he's also a first-round draft pick in the NFL. That's the kind of projection that you're looking at for Chris Tyree because when you put 5-star status on any kid, you're expecting that guy to get drafted in the first round. That's why there's a number of somewhere between 20 and about 35, 36 of those dudes that you're comfortable with giving 5-star to. And then when you put the 24/7 composite together and you're taking from ESPN, you're taking from Rivals, you're taking from 247, and you're putting it all together, you come up with a composite. And across the board, everybody seems to love them some Chris Tyree. And that's why he's got offers from Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, among others. Feels like Notre Dame and Oklahoma are the two that he's thinking about the most, but after his visit and his quote to 247, OU's firmly in the lead. So with Oklahoma being the kind of running back you that it is, and the kind of quarterback you that it is not out of the question to see just Chris Tyree and then Jason McClellan together. I don't think you're going to get 3 running backs as much as people really love Kendall Milton and as much as people really love Seth McGowan. It's going to be hard to get 3 running backs in this class. I wouldn't bet on it. I would think if Chris Tyree or Kendall Milton pulled the trigger, one of those 2 guys is going to be it, and you're going to be done with your running back recruiting, which is saying a lot because Zach Evans is still on the board. And while a lot of people really do believe that he's going to end up at Texas, Oklahoma cannot be overlooked for anybody that is a running back just because of what they are able to do at the position. Samaje Perine, Joe Mixon, DeMarco Murray, Chris Brown. We can keep going back to Adrian Peterson and further. Right? You had a number 1 overall draft pick in Billy Sims. Like that's 1980. I know the old heads are going to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but this is a running back U. And that is what Chris Tyree was coming to look at. And for a guy from the East Coast, who's not going to have that many more visits to Oklahoma, to feel the way that he does about OU speaks so much about what Lincoln Riley's able to do, what Cale Gundy's able to do, and the kind of message Jay Boulware is able to give to a guy that, frankly, they don't have that type of dude on the roster right now. You don't have a Chris Tyree at running back. You don't have a speedster. You don't have a kind of guy that you can split out into the slot or even put on the line of scrimmage at split end or take him off the line of scrimmage at flanker and use him in all the ways. Because the idea in my head is, what if you're able to put a Charleston Rambo type over there and call him a split end, and you're able to put a Chris Tyree over there at flanker? You got burners on both sides, and if you got a big, tall, strong Y like Austin Stogner, matchup nightmares everywhere, and you got speed on both ends, while you're saying, hey, deal with the 6'6", 237-pound dude in the middle. It's just a really, really sexy offense, and there's lots of things and lots of ways that you can use Chris Tyree, and I know that people are really fascinated with the way that Lincoln Riley can use H-backs. But if you can get the kind of running back in there that is not necessarily as big as Joe Mixon by any means, but faster and able to do the kind of things that Mixon was able to do behind the offensive line, but also just out in space, oh my goodness, all of a sudden you have a really great back. And that's why I'm leaning to CJ Spiller, because I can also see Chris Tyree returning kicks. And with his kind of speed and the speed that Quaylon Crawford has and the kind of speed that you have in the smaller guys that can fit into the slot, yeah, you really do have a sexy offense. And again, you're just going to make it that much simpler and easier to recruit a quarterback to a class still doesn't have a quarterback commit. All right, that's it for me. Doses.